Hi there, traders. Welcome to Trade the Structure and the Morning Jumpstart. And the US market wrap, well, more like an overnight market wrap because the US was actually closed. So they had all the indices were closed for President's Day, I think it was, overnight. So they had a shortened session on the futures, but they still had some sort of session. So most of the prices, obviously, the prices we look at are futures prices. So a lot of the US markets, so the Dow, we're going to show you the Dow and the Tech, don't really have an underlying market to go off because they were closed. All right, so Europe was left to its own devices, sort of bounced and then headed south. The DAX got having a bit, and the FTSE actually didn't do too bad. That's the UK 100, didn't too bad. So we'll have a look at that. We'll go through the usual markets coming into the Asian market session, and we'll just lay out the levels where I expect to see some action and where I would be looking for some obviously buying opportunities or selling opportunities, and where I think it's actually going to go. So with the Aussie market, this is the close. So this is closed at 4 o'clock, and then the market basically popped up, headed straight back down. So the market actually headed straight back down to where it started. So it sort of opened around here yesterday, popped down, had some decent news come out about Biden and Putin having a bit of a meeting, a bit of a powwow, and the market went straight back up. And as they were brushing aside Ukrainian concerns, now Ukrainian concerns then again turned around and hit the market again. So it's all got to do with news releases. Now I'm really skeptical on these news releases, news headlines. They're just drumming up fear. They're drumming up business. Okay, and sometimes depending on which news service, they're all got their own biases each way, political biases too. So it just depends what they want to be saying, and it's hard to go off those headlines because you never know. There's so many headlines. Any sort of social media you're getting out there, a lot of them just put out absolute rubbish. They're frauds, they're fakes, and some good news services. I tend to look at Reuters and Bloomberg stuff coming through. I like to think that they're non-biased, but then you've got your CNNs and all that sort of stuff, which do have a political bias to them. So it's hard to sort of understand exactly what is happening with regards to the news headlines, but these markets at the moment are very reactive. Now, I think the reason why, this is sort of good news, popped it up, and then coming to the open European session, I think they had some news out about skirmishes on the border between Russian and Ukrainian. I think Russians killed a few people who jumped the border or whatever it was. I think that's what's drove the market down because you've got these positive headlines, you've got these negative headlines. We don't know what's going to happen with Biden and Putin, whether they're going to come to some sort of agreement or stay out of Ukraine or what's going to happen. So the market is still on edge a bit about that situation. Okay, and it's hard to, like I said, with news, it's hard to understand exactly what's going on, to know exactly what's going on. It's just reactive at the moment. So I would expect these markets to stay offered, meaning heavy, okay, a bit weighted down, grind its way down until the US opens tonight. So I'm really looking for a push down to 71.35 on the indices. It's capped at the moment at 72.14 from overnight action, but like I said, that was from 2:30 in the morning. So there's no real US to go off. The European session was coming to a close, and it's just CFD pricing or futures pricing from the US, which is very, very thin because no one's really trading. They've got the day off. Okay, and you can find that they get pushed down, US opens and bang, straight back up. So they're trapping a whole lot of shorts and then jam it straight back up. At the moment, longer term on the index, we've got 71.35 is the level, and then you've got the action being held down. I'm sort of looking more at this level, 72.57. It got traded into in the day session, tested it in the European session, so all legitimate hours, legitimate movement, and then later on it just felt it faded as once the Europe opens and you get late into the European session, they're looking to the US and there's no US session. So we'll see how that goes with Europe tonight and when US opens. Now, this is the Hang Seng. So this is the session from the day. Absolute, it was really just chopping people around. They knew that the markets were closed. They knew that we're not going to do too much coming to the US session, and they just chopped around, set up short, dragged in short, squeezed them straight back out, set up some longs, squeezed them out. So it's the same, just washing out both sides of the market. But then it proceeded to drift lower with the European markets. Now it is at a level here at 23,945, which I'm looking for either a flush, retest, and drop, or it's going to flush and bounce back and back into that zone. Okay, that's pretty much what I'm looking for on the open. Nikkei, I think this was, just got to see where that open was. I think it was down here. Okay, so push down, good news, pop back up, flushed out the 27,000 level, and then straight back down again. So it's back down to where it started pretty much yesterday. Okay, so it traded below this level, 26,820. Now it did pop back up there yesterday into the start of the European session. I think it was about here, 6 o'clock. And then basically Europe open, went straight down. Nikkei followed it down. Okay, so it's holding below that level at the moment. It's holding lower highs. It's pressuring down. You're going to be watching that 26,570 zone to see whether it flushes and bounces back, a bit like what we're talking about on the Hang Seng. Flushes, bouncing back, or we get, I'm talking about this kind of action, bounces back and goes like that, or you've got, whoops, or you've got, flush, hold, and drop. Okay, I think Nikkei longer term is quite negative too. We're speaking about the last few days. It's quite negative to me. You get this big action, big move down, big, sort of rollover action here, lower highs, key lower highs holding. So if those lower highs continue to hold, then we'll see how it plays out. You've got to remember too that it's a bit extended from the most recent lower high. That lower high is confirmed, as in, you've got this lower high here, another lower high here. It's confirmed just in there. So it's a bit extended. That's why I'm betting on more of a flush that level. If it does flush and go straight down, then it's going to be a tough one. You have to trade it off the lower time frames. Okay, look for your lower highs and your lower time frame charts to enter into. Dow, let's get onto that. I think it's adamant to get down to 33,550, but like I said, this was action when the markets are closed. European markets are closed. What time that closed? 3 o'clock. The European markets closed, so the bulk of that action was from, and they closed early. That's it. So they closed around, I think it was 5 o'clock. So that last candle was at 4:30, closes at 5. There's no futures market after that until they'll reopen, I think around the 10 o'clock mark or somewhere around there. But yeah, closed early. It looks like it wants to head down to 33,350. That's 33,550 here, this level anyway. And then we'll be looking to see how that market reacts. Does it react up and off, or do we sort of bounce up and then flush straight back down again? I think it's all going to have to do with news headlines and what's happening. Okay, there's an inside level here. Just watch that today. That's just in here. What's that? That's around the 33,740 area. Nice little inside level. Otherwise, we've got down to that 33,550 and then even lower down to here at 33,150. So it's kind of a broad area where it could jab into. But like I said, I think it's going to have to do with news headlines. You'll find that they'll be talking about Biden and Putin having a meeting. Everything's good. Market might pop up. Then they come out and say something's happened here. Something's happened here. It's still negative. So the news is just going to drive you in whatever direction it can. Not so much at once, but what it can to get people to read exactly. So price action first and foremost. I think that's what we're following. We've got to follow anyway. US tech. Now it's taken out this low at 13,880. Now you don't forget that we're still looking at interest rate rises. Okay, in the US and US dollar. US dollar was actually up more on a bit of a safe haven buying, but it's got knocked around a bit last night. It sort of it popped up in Asian market session and then got smacked back down in Europe as the two different headlines sort of dominated the market. And you can see this tech is going to be weighed down by that. You've got a nice little level here. I'll just draw that up because it's actually quite a good little level. Little level just in here around that 14,130 area, holding the market down at the moment. The market's it's under pressure because of rate rises more than anything else. And we'll see if they can continue. Now that's stretched, if you ask me. I wouldn't be looking to sell down here. I want to see some sort of retracement, maybe a retest of 13,880 that start to hold. Look to your lower time frames for a short off a shoulder, a lower high. Otherwise, we could get a lot of back and fill back above that level, 13,880, because you are coming into some key lows. Low here and another low here. All right, just got to take these two sort of lows there. So it's coming into this low at 13,700 or 710. All right, that's it for that one. Let's look at Europe now. Europe, the DAX. Now I've got it on a 4-hourly chart here. The others were 30 minutes. Normally I'm looking at the 30-minute chart. 4-hourly, it got smashed through a level here. It is around that 14,850, that zone through there. And you can see it's traded it quite a few times. Tested into it, reacted off. Checks it into it, reacted off again here, again here, and again here, and here. So it's done it quite a few times. Most recent action up here, yeah, you can look at that. That was a bit of a pullback by the dip. Got up to the high. The problem is we made a double top up here, and now we've got all these concerns weighing on the market. Okay, we've got Ukraine and we've got interest rates rises. Interest rates aren't going away. Ukraine it could turn around if they have a discussion. They're all happy. We've got some sort of consensus that it's all over. We're not going to invade. Russia's not going to invade Europe. Then that could be over. Bang. But the problem is we still got interest rates to contend with. That's not going to change. There's going to be an interest rate cycle, interest rate raising cycle in Europe. That's going to be kicking off sooner or later. US we're looking to potentially, I think it's in a week or so, FOMC meeting in the US, which they're looking at raising rates. It's whether it's 25 basis points or 50. double rate rise, get it over and done within one hit. That's why the US, you've got the tech is getting weighted down the Dow. Okay, but Germany just broke through that support, so it's not so much. I wouldn't expect so much for the fears of Ukraine, but more of still looking at this interest rate rise cycle. So it's reacted off that level, 14,420, this zone through here, reacted up and off. So I would expect maybe some back and fill today. It's going to be open. It's going to be probably a mixed open, a bit choppy. I wouldn't be shorting it down here anyway. I'll be looking for more, maybe a retest at that level. I'll be looking for maybe on the lower time frames to do something like this, maybe on the 30. Let's just go to a 30-minute chart. I'll be looking for more, something like that to play out, a bit of a back and fill into there. That level starts to hold. Obviously, the fears are still sticking around, lower high, and looking to trade into a lower high. Okay, UK also break a level. It's an inside level. It's not as major as what we had on the DAX, but the thing is, we've got this action where it's had a good run up, good sell off, another good run up. Now we couldn't get through those highs convincingly at all. We sort of popped through, chopped around, tried to go, but got weighted, and we again retested it at 76.32 in this zone here, and we're starting to get weighty. Now we've got lower highs still holding. You've got the most recent one, a key lower high is holding here. So really, you've got draw that out. We'll just draw that in yellow. What I'm looking at there. That's your move down. You extend that out. You've got that move down to basically where we come into. Okay. And you look left, you've got some zones where you're going to work into 74.22. So it could easily go lower. Nothing to say just because I've drawn that nice little yellow line that's going to stop there and bounce. But it's just saying that market's getting a bit extended. Okay, so it's a bit like the DAX. If I was going to trade short that, I want, and I'm adamant to be short, I want to be trading off a pullback. I don't want to be trading in that zone, because if you trade short here off this 30-minute chart, your risk is going to be way up here, and that's somewhere around 1.2% away, 90 points. Now it's quite big on the UK 100. So I wouldn't be trading short here. I want to be seeing a bit of a bounce, lower high to work into, and then drop your time frames to refine that entry. Okay, Aussie dollar. We're looking at this market holding that level yesterday, and it did that, 72.15, held that zone. It's pressing down. It's still just chopping around. So you're still holding high lows all the way up as the US dollar was finding a bit of selling, but now US dollar starting to bounce back a bit. Let's just check where we're at in the US dollar. It's around the 96 area. Yeah, but US dollar has found support over quite a while now at 95.69, and now it's at 96.244 is the highs. It's sort of where it's got a resistance zone. So it's been capped, and you can see that it's pretty much when you're seeing this action here is exactly what's happening on the US dollar, but pretty much in reverse. It's been finding support here on the US dollar. We're finding resistance at Aussie, okay, and vice versa. So I would expect, if I'm thinking the US dollar is going to head higher, I think it's going to be pushed higher because you've got talking about interest rates. I want to be biased down on the Aussie. We've tested this zone a few times now, flushed it lower high into that area, but you just got to contend with this. So if we get a bit of a run onto the downside, then I'll be looking, especially if we break through this level, is around this zone through here. If we start to break through there at around 79.65, thereabouts, break through there, I'll be looking at that retest and hold, and then a short into that. But for now, we're still a while off that level. Euro, lower highs, held this key level at 114.80, flushed it down. Okay, come back up, held this level, retested it overnight. I think it was overnight. Yep, just in the open, and opened European markets 13.94, held that straight back down again. So as the US, this to me looks like the US dollar wants to rally, because this is just inverse of what's happening with the US dollar. Okay, if you've got this little move up, pull back, should have gone, find a double top retest fail we talk about up here, 13.94, and now we're failing again. So I'll be looking for lower highs to sell into, get a clear sort of lower high. Maybe you could potentially got this area here, break through the low, you got your risk above, okay, with the idea that's going to drive them to 112.80. Pound is much the same. We've got two sort of levels. We've got a level through here, 36.56, and then sort of this lower level at 36.39, which has been capped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Okay, so it's found sellers into that area. First time, some good selling, sort of have it smashed up into that level, took out this high, just to flush out some traders, and we find some sellers again coming down, pushed into this 34.95 area, straight back up, found sellers again. So the fact that we broke through, and I think we spoke about this yesterday, broke through that 36.02 area, and then we've come straight back up. I'll be looking for lower highs into this as well. I think coming into the US session, maybe we're going to be capped we might find that the market's, it's got a bit of an offer area, an offer zone. Sellers are stepping in a bit lower at 36.17, may cap it, and then we find some lower highs that press down, and we're starting to target, these areas through here, and just looking break down. So you've got all these areas where buyers have been buying it, buying it, buying it. They start to get squeezed out, and the market heads south. Okay, US yen. US yen is looking fairly negative to me, a bit of a safe haven bid into the yen, like we were talking about yesterday. Even if the US dollar rallies, safe haven bid outweighs the US dollar strength, yen strength, and then we've got the market as a pair heading down. Okay, a bit of a grind, like we were speaking about yesterday, a bit of a grind, but it is into that 114.75 area. It's a bit of a zone where it's traded, chopped around here, sold off from it, back into there, retested it, held, retested 1, 2, 3 times, and we started to head up all the way back up to here, 116.33. Now we're heading back down into that level now. So we'll see if we can find a bid, maybe squeeze out some of these sellers. If not, I'm looking at this area, I'll be looking for 2 things today. I don't think it'll happen today. I think it'll more chop around here today until Europe opens and the US opens. Either it pops down, you get a retest to sell into, retest that level to sell into, or it sort of fades back up again. So you've only got 1, 2, 3, you can sell into that potentially, or you get a bit of a flush back up again and see if it can hold a higher low. Okay, so they're sort of the 2 areas I'm looking at, 2 things I'm looking for around that area. Gold, the last few things. Gold, I think, is just pressed up in that 1910 choppy market. We're looking at testing into that level, testing into there, straight back up again to 1910. So it's still got a safe haven bid, and that's, I would expect news driven. I think that secondary move up, I wouldn't be buying up here expecting to break at 1910. I'm looking for more of, flushing to the level and then selling to come back in, especially any time before the US opens. Okay, so and that's only because you got these 2 legs. You got this kind of 1, 2, and when I see things like that, I don't think a strong market accelerates and then holds into a zone. It starts to accelerate. The pullbacks are very mild. You don't get this sort of chop around for too long. But this kind of move is more sellers come in and squeeze them out up into a resistance zone. It's between 2 areas as well, 1887 and 1910. So that sort of area in there is an each way bet which way you're going. You could have gone long there, fine. For an extension up to that 1910, but up here I wouldn't be buying it. I'll be looking for either that kind of action there, or sudden sort of pullback, hold a higher low, maybe something like this, and we look for an extension up and through 1910. Okay, oil had a good night, and that's on the back of Ukrainian fears. Anytime there's talk, and that's where you're better off looking at crude. I think it's a bit more refined than the actual news you're getting. But if there's talk of, there's concerns still with Russia invading Ukraine, oil's going to go. Okay, and that's what it did. It broke up through 93.25, held high lows. You've got this lows coming through off lower highs, lower high, pressed down. Now we've got a higher low starting to play out just in here. Okay, so that's nice little area, worked off, extended up. Whether it continues on the 95 or whether we get more news, it's going to drive it back down again. Yet to be seen. I wouldn't be buying this up here. I'd be looking for maybe retest at 93 if you're trading intraday, 93.25 for looking at, and then a rally to 95, or it's going to fade back below this level, retest and get some short squeeze, sorry, a long squeeze. And these buyers bought up here, get them squeezed back out and move down. Copper's looking a bit heavy off this area here, 162. This zone through here, we were talking about this yesterday, 1, 2, 3, tested here. We failed off there again. We're back into this messy sort of area here at around 98.81. Whether it holds that, again, we'll wait and see. Strength into US dollar is going to weigh on this market. Bitcoin, last 2, Bitcoin just choppy. It's didn't have a market to go off of the US. It's not a hedge against inflation like they like to spruik. It's really, to me, it's sort of nothing much. Bitcoin, utility-wise, I don't think it's got it just yet. I think obviously blockchain's got it. Blockchain's the thing. It's not the actual coin itself, and there's a lot of rubbish coins around. I do see this as a major squeeze on longs. Okay, longs have been adamant for a long time ago to 100,000. People have been buying up for that. Now it's a bit of a squeeze on margin positions potentially. Okay, and heading south, especially that it's going with the US indices now. If US indices open up tonight, get smashed, Bitcoin's going to go down with it. It's going to trade into that 36, 38 area. Okay, and I think it's actually, that was what chart? That's at 9 o'clock. So it's headed south since we were talking. So looking at this scenario, I'm looking at it to go to 33, 36, 380. And the same with Ethereum. It's trading into that 29, 25, 90 area. Whether it bounces up off there or we get this sort of short off a lower high, retest and short into that. All right, guys, that's all I wanted to talk about. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed that. Help us spread the word. Leave us a like on the YouTube channel. Take a look around on the YouTube channel, and remember to look at the website, www.tradethestructure.com. All right, guys, we'll speak to you again soon.